started to fall, and where were you? How could I know you were falling too? Grabbing the wind, cutting my skin, but it's hard because I'm falling. Tell me why I'm falling. Oh, life's calling, but it's hard because I'm falling.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Nemesis podcast. And today, I am joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Finn. Finn, how you doing, my guy?
I'm doing pretty good today. I am pretty tired. I had a long night last night. It's going to be kind of weird here, as we don't have Squirrel. I feel like he's on every podcast, but he's not here today, so it's just me and you.
Sadly, Squirrel cannot join us as he's on vacation, but nonetheless, we have to get a podcast out for you guys because we know that you love them and we love to make them. So let's just jump right into it, Finn. So let's talk about Novice first. Do you have a game for me that you thought shook up the standings this week?
This last week, or are you talking about future, like about to be played?
This last week that was played.
All right. Oh, That's hard to say. I believe the Whelps lost again this last week, and that's probably the big one. If it will load for me. Did Whelps lose?
Yeah, the Whelps lost both their games this week. They lost on stream against Frost 3-1 fashion, and also they lost against the Vikings in a 3-1 fashion also.
I do believe that they did use a sub, though, and I believe that sub was BMAT. So that might have had something to do with it, but who knows? So I'm guessing one of those games had a really crazy thing because all of a sudden we have a three-way tie for the first seed right now at 10-4 for Whelps, Pawns, and Frost. And so that could go either way for all of those teams.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said three-way tie, and there's a weird thing because there's a big triangle, circle, whatever you want to call it, because Frost beat the Whelps, and then the Pawns beat Frost. But tonight, later on stream, Whelps are playing the Pawns, so it's a huge circle right now to see who's that top seed. But they're definitely top three teams right now. It's just who's gonna place where. But
that's for sure.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you on the Whelps games for Novice here. It's crazy to think how a top team lost 2 games this week. I mean, one was definitely a close one against Frost, and we understand that there was a sub in the other game. But nonetheless, their record's starting to dip down, and they're starting to look like a normal Novice team once again and get back to the middle of the pack. So, not necessarily them being in the middle of the pack, but them coming down a little bit more towards Earth. So, we'll have to see about that.
Yeah, and the thing is, with nobody clinching play-ins so far, no one knows, but they could end up not even making play-ins or playoffs at all if they lose out all 4 games for the rest of the season, which would be a crazy thing, because I remember they were like 9-1 or 9-0 or something, and then all of a sudden they started taking all these losses that took everybody by surprise, and it's all coming down to the wire for Novice here, as nobody has clinched anything.
Yeah, that's crazy to think. That's the only league that nobody's even clinched a play-in spot yet. There's only been one thing happening in Novice, and I believe it was Nemesis is the only team that's actually eliminated from contention right now. So that's pretty incredible.
It is really incredible because if you really think about it, all these teams could win out, but still not get the position that they'd like because of how other games play out and how other teams get into positions that they would rather have.
Absolutely, and then we can come back to it later. We're probably going to talk about this multiple times today. But head-to-head matters. I mean, we're down to the wire. 4 games left. Well, 4 series left of the season. Sorry, Rockman. I know you're like that. But there's 4 series left of the season. So all the head-to-head matters realistically, and then we'll come up to divisional games. But on that note, we're gonna move to prospect. What do you got for me, Finn, for the prospect league?
I don't really know. Maybe Flurry 3-1ing Hypernova. I know you're on Flurry, so you like that. That really helps them because they've been kind of low on the pack, and right now they're 5-9, and so they really need these last few games to try and get themselves up into a play-in position. And so a win this last week against Hypernova could really help with that, as Hypernova, they could even end up being knocked out after that loss.
Yeah, Prospect is one of those leagues that everybody there's definitely a top, but then you
Yeah.
have everybody else in the mix. And if I'm not mistaken, in the Prospect League, the 15th seed, the Gladiators, are 5-9. And then the 7th seed is 8-6, and then underneath that 7-7. So there's only 2 games realistically in between 15 and 8, and that's crazy how competitive Prospect League is right now.
Yeah, if you think about it, all those teams near the top, they could just start losing all these games, and all the bottom teams, like Novice, could just start winning, and the entire
4 series matches to go. But
Yeah.
for me, I don't know. Prospect didn't really seem out of place this week. I've seen, the series scores and everything like that, so I don't really think there was a big shake up. But a game that I was surprised about, I guess, was the 3-0 Blackhawks over the Warhawks, the Battle of the Hawks.
Yeah.
I did expect the Blackhawks to win. I did predict that, but not in a sweeping fashion. I thought the Warhawks were going to put up a little bit more of a fight, but that's real. I mean, that's Prospect for you. Anything can happen. I mean, that's Rocket League for you in general. So, I mean, that's not necessarily a big shake up, but it just goes to show that the Warhawks are not invincible, because they're not even in a playoff spot right now. They're, like I said, 8-6 in the 7th seed. They're not
Yeah.
that far off from dropping out of the play-ins completely either, or even jumping into the playoffs, because right now the Minotaurs are also 8-6 at the 6th seed.
That's true. Yeah, and I remember we were talking about that series last week on the podcast, and I believe it was 3 of us, and then I believe maybe Sylvian predicted the Warhawks, but I believe it was the other 3 of us predicted the Blackhawks. And I kind of had some bias in that, being it's my org, but I was glad it turned out in a 3-0 sweep.
Yeah, it's always good to get a sweep if you're on the winning side of things, but if you're on the losing side, you have to go back to the drawing board and just seeing what is up. But let's jump to the Challenger League. And I'm just looking at this, just at the blue. Not necessarily a huge thing, but Venom had 2 stream games on Saturday night, and they were the only 2 games that were actually streamed on Saturday night. So it was very interesting to see the same team play back-to-back games on stream. I don't think that's never happened before.
Yeah, and those teams, that Venom team must have been fatigued. If you think about it, it's like a bracket reset in a LAN event. Like, you're gonna be playing 2 series back to back. You're gonna get really tired really fast after that first one. But I think my game of the week has to be the Raptors. I forgot who they played. It was the Papayas. They swept them, and that was huge for them because they want to keep that number 1 seed in their division, as they're only 1 game ahead of Ascension, who's trying to chase them down and take that number 1 seed in that division away from them.
Yeah, absolutely, I can agree with you. And then, not to be trying to be biased or anything, but a very important game, I think, for even a play-in race is Snowstorm and Orbit. They went to 5. To my knowledge, it was a reverse sweep, so kudos to my team for taking the win on that. But that's for a play-in spot, is because, once again, we're going to look in the Challenger standings real quick, and we have 13 Orbit sitting at 6-8, and then you're going to jump up to Venom that's also 6-8, but the 9 seed. So anything can happen. It's crazy how close all these play-in spots are in every single match, series, whatever you want to call it from this point on, is very important.
Yeah, and that's 5 teams in the Challenger that are 6-8. All 2 of them being in play-in positions, 3 of them not. And so anything can happen, anything can change in these last 4 games, and so they've all got to be on their tiptoes, making sure they're on top of things, trying to keep themselves in that postseason position.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy to just think about just all the positions, period. No matter what you are. Record, like we said, head-to-head matters. That's what's going to determine, because teams will have the same record, but who will have the head-to-head? Now, about the rival league, Mr. Finn. We're starting to get out of our zone. a little bit more here because I know me and you are not necessarily on the top of the league here with skill. So let's just go through a little bit here. And I mean, not trying to be biased. This is huge. Hydra got swept by Whiteout. Insane.
That's something that we were not expecting to see, as they were the undefeated team and rival, and all of these late games have really been surprising every single league, as Hydra is the first one for rival to my knowledge, because that's a huge change going from undefeated to 13-1. The Knights now are going to see that as an opportunity to hopefully try and take that division and get themselves the top 4 seed in playoffs.
Yeah, I was just very shocked on just the standings. It's gonna be very hard for the Knights to try to sneak in, as Hydra is still a very, very solid roster, and I bet you they're the heavy hitters to win the whole thing. And Hydra's always been a good team.
Yeah,
That's
it's
just yeah, they've always been a good team. So you have
yeah.
to think, will they crack after like they got swept? Will they crack? I doubt it. They're a very solid roster. That's probably the only loss that they're realistically going to receive. They might lose one more, but I see them locking up the division and also the first seed. So, I mean, that was my huge game. The Whiteout Hydra. Not necessarily a big shakeup in the standings, but Hydra getting their first loss against a 6 and 7 Whiteout roster.
Yeah, and I'd say mine is probably the Pineapples versus Thunderbirds. It was the Wednesday game. It was on stream, and the only reason I'm picking this is Thunderbirds, they did win the series, but unfortunately they did not know the rules entirely, and Cram was on an alt account because his main account was banned, and they thought that he was allowed to play on that account, but unfortunately he wasn't. So the series did get changed to a 3-0 sweep, which is huge for the Pineapples because they did win their Monday game in Chimeras, I believe is how you pronounce it. They're one game ahead of them in their division, but they lost that Monday game, so it kept Pineapples just that much needed closer to hopefully also take their division in this rival league.
Yeah, unfortunately, that was a forfeit because of an alt account. That's just knowledge of the rulebook at that point. You have to know what's up, and you make sure you report all your accounts, because if you're not, you'll get burned like this. And unfortunately, that's what happened. And let's go up to the tippy top of Titan, the best of the best that we have here in Nemesis. So, Finn, what do you got for me, brother?
Yeah, I'm gonna let you you take this one away, as I gotta look some things over and figure it out a little more.
All right. Looking at it in general, Kraken still undefeated. They played against the Spartans, which that's not a just kind of game. They're a good team. So you have to give Kraken still props of still being undefeated. I mean, they still got a couple games to go. They got to go through their division again. Everybody does. They got to play the Bananas again. They got to play Blizzard and also Inferno again, which are not exactly teams that you can just walk over. But
Yeah,
I mean, I can just look at the Krakens, not even just a game, them just in general. Do I think they could go undefeated 18-0? It's possible. Is it
yeah,
likely? Yeah, but you have to just look at it and say, hey, who do they still have to play? Because strength of schedule goes into effect.
yeah. I'd probably have to say the Spartans playing the Grandmasters is probably the game that I'll have to pick. The Grandmasters are a very good team. They have Bubbly Reaper. Everybody knows him. Everybody just knows him. But I really thought the Spartans were going to take that one, but they ended up losing 3-1, and that just kind of surprised me. But the Spartans, they don't have to worry too much, as they did clinch their division. All these games really matter to them in these last 4 games is what position they're going to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, they're going to be a top 4 no matter what. It's just where. If you're Spartans, you're sitting pretty. Realistically, if I was the Spartans, I would look down in the standings and say, who do I want to play in the first round? Because you kind of have the power over that right now. Not necessarily 1 to 8, but you can see maybe 2, 3, and even 4. Play the odds a little bit. I mean, you have that power because your division is not the strongest. So take what you're given. That's huge.
Yeah, and like in a way, you could, instead of taking a win as hard as you could try and scope out who you're gonna play against, trying to get teams who aren't in. If you play a team that's not in a playoff position and they bump up into a playoff position that you want them to, because you know you can beat them, or just trying to scope out who you'll play eventually, it could work out in their favor.
Yeah, it's insane how you can just think about that. You're in a very comfortable position. I'm making playoffs no matter what, and I want to pick who I'm playing in the first round. Not necessarily, but you can maybe help a team say, hey, you want to get into a play-in spot? We got you, or just something like that. It's insane. It's crazy how they can just do what they want right now.
Yeah, that's very true. And actually, they play Vanguard, and I believe Vanguard. They could help Vanguard clinch their division if they wanted. They probably don't, because they probably might want that seed above them in the end. But they play Vanguard, who is tied with the Grandmasters, and anything could happen in that division.
Yeah, as we round up the Titan standings here, overall, you definitely see a top 6, even maybe a top 8, because they're not that far behind. But there's definitely a clear cut between bottom, top to a little bit mid top.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to see what happens.
I'd for sure say that it's pretty obvious which teams are going to be making playoffs and which teams are not going to be making playoffs.
Yeah, we're just gonna have to see, because, like we said, Spartans can do what they want. If they want to play against the 5 seed, go at it. But if they want to stay 2, they'll play a play-in team. And also, they'll be the opposite side of the bracket of Krakens. That's also important.
That is.
Play the odds. 1 plays 8, and then on the bottom half, it's 2 plays 7. And then also with the 2 seed, it's the 3 seed, and then the 4 seeds with 1. Hey, it's all about
wrong.
It's all about placement.
We did not really think about that or talk about that with the other leagues, but that is a huge factor in determining what you want to do in the playoffs and how you want to hopefully get your route to the grand finals to try and win.
All strategic. It may not be, the best sportsmanship, but you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
So we're gonna move on here to a couple stream games today, as it is Monday and it is game day. So the first game on stream will be coming from the Challenger League. For both teams are 7-7. Bishops taking on the Drakes. Who do you got?
I'm thinking the Bishops. I know one player out of these two teams, maybe more, but I know that Kratos is on the Bishops, and I believe he will for sure be a rival player next season. He has peaked like 1650 or something, GC3, whatever it is. I don't know. It's crazy.
We're not that high up. We don't know what it is.
yeah. We don't really know. But I know that he is a crazy player. I've played some 6-mans with him. I've played all sorts of things with him. He is a very good player. Looking at the Drakes, they do have Daydreams. He might be their sub. I'm not for sure about that. I know him. I don't really know anybody else on the Drakes. If I can find... Bishop's right there. I know Chiefs. I've heard his name a few times. But yeah, other than that, I really only know Kratos. And he's a very good player, so I'm going to have to give it Bishops in a 3-2 fashion.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on the Bishops taking the win here tonight. If you look at it, I'll take Bishops in 4. I do really think the Bishops are a solid roster. I think their record doesn't show who they are, even though both teams are 7-7. But talking about that, Bishops are the 4 seed at 7-7, and then if you take a look at the Drakes, they're the 8th seed at 7-7. That is called. Your division is I wouldn't say necessarily weak, but it's not the strongest. If you're 7-7 winning the division this late in the season.
I see what you mean. Yeah, both of them are winning their division, and they're both 7-7. I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's something to keep note of.
Which actually, the Drakes aren't winning their division. It's Motion, so that must be a head-to-head tiebreaker right there over both Dissolved and Drakes, because all three of those teams are 7-7. But the Motion, they have the worst game record out of all three of those teams, so they must have beat both Dissolved and Drakes.
Head-to-head matters. I don't know how much more I have to say it.
Not
I
wrong.
can determine because, like, you just said Motion's leading their division. They're the 3 seed at 7-7. And
Yeah.
we talked about earlier the play-in race. The 9 seed is 6-8. The placement of the division. It's crazy how much one game can determine. Hey, I'll be a top 4 to. Will I make play-ins?
Yeah.
That's insane. But let's move on to the next match, which it will be coming from the Titan League, the top of the top. We have a Season 5 Grand Finals rematch with Blizzard taking on Pinnacle. Blizzard's coming in at 9-5, and Pinnacle is coming in at 7-7. Finn, what do you got?
Obviously, these aren't the same teams as Season 5 Grand Finals. As we all know, Luca was on Pinnacle. I don't want to say Blizzards, but I feel like that might be what it is.
Say it.
But I'm going to take Pinnacle in a Game 5.
Oh, you're no fun. I do think Pinnacle is a strong roster. I do. Blizzard, they have 2 returning players, Toxic and Max. They won back-to-back. They are proven at this point. Everybody says 3-headed giant when Soars was there about offense. Yes, the bias is showing. I love it. But just looking at the Pinnacle roster, they have Deluxe, Insanity, Edwin, and GBE. That's a good roster. And they're 7-7.
Yeah.
And so just looking at it, Blizzard is not leading their division because Krakens are in it. Okay, that's understandable. And then you have Pinnacle fighting to stay in the play-in at 7-7. So
that's the same though. That's the same with Blizzard, is that they haven't clinched anything either. So anything can happen. You can't get your hopes up too fast and just know that you're gonna make it. You have to at least finish out with at least 1 or 2 more wins here to hopefully clinch that play-in position.
absolutely anything can happen. And if you realistically want to think about this is a very important game for both teams, but if I would have to give it more importance to one team, it's Pinnacle tonight over Blizzard, because Blizzard's sitting a little bit better in the standings, but Pinnacle, they're not that far off from not even making plans. Not saying that, Blizzard, they haven't made plans either, nobody's clinched. Pinnacle needs this game more tonight.
That's true. That is very true, as they are a lower team right now. Yeah, there's 2 teams that are 4-5, or 4-10, and one that's. I didn't know that they missed multiple games, but Diversion's 5-9. Those are all in the Spartans division, but they could. That doesn't mean that they're out of the playoff position. They could sweep by under the noses of Pinnacle and these other teams and take their positions in play-ins and playoffs.
Yeah, just once again, Titan. You see a clear cut top, and then you get a little of the middle of the top, but near the bottom, where not saying Pinnacle is not one of those teams, but where they are right now in the standings, they are one of the lower teams. So you have to just be mindful of that. But that rounds up our little around the league segment here. And a question.
We got one more game.
What?
You can't. The novice game.
Oh my god, the novice moment. Oh no. How could I forget novice? Anyway, of course the novice man sitting next to me on the desk would know.
Seemed a little on purpose there.
Do we really want to watch novices though? I guess
novice is always the best league to watch. It's the most fun league. It might not be the best league, but it's the most fun league, especially right now.
The casual players. Yeah, okay, we'll talk about it. Go ahead, Finn. I'll let you talk about it. Go ahead.
Especially right now, as no team has clinched any position. We've already talked about this. No play-in position, no playoff position, no division. Nobody has clinched anything. It's insanity. I don't understand it.
He's on Pinnacle. Joking. No, but today's game is not necessarily going to be like, oh, will they make plans, or They will probably make plans. Let's be honest for a second.
Yes, that is
Okay.
true. This is actually a very important game on stream, though. As we talked about earlier, this will determine who will be the number 1 seed for now.
Yeah, even if Whelps win, and if Frost wins,
Even
Whelps aren't the 1 seed.
yeah. Even if Whelps win, and me and Dan were talking about this. Even if Whelps win this game tonight on stream, if Frost wins, for the time, actually, they would be number 1 seed because they don't play again, as we have the division matches. But Frost would still take it as they have the head-to-head game from earlier on in the season.
Yeah, from this last week, even against the Whelps. But the Pawns, we have to jump all the way back to week 1 in the season when they played Frost and Pawns. Pawns beat Frost, so that can come into play very easily if Pawns win tonight. Today's game will determine a lot, but there is still multiple series, matches, whatever Rocker Man wants to call it, to end the season off.
Yeah, not even looking at the top kingpins right now in that league, but we have 5 teams that are 7-7, 3 that are 6-8, and then 2 that are 8-6 and 9-5. All of those teams could flip around, go everywhere after today or Wednesday. Everything will change here in Novice. It's gonna come down to the wire no matter what.
I think it's safe to say, except for Aurora that's sitting on their 4th seed at 7-7. If you were 7-7, you're in play-in contention right now, because that's the only thing we have for play-ins. So.
Yeah, that's very true. But it is my division, so I can talk about it a little bit. Aurora, they should not be taking anything lightly, as they are not safe with my team, Crows and Wisps, wanting to take that spot, as we are only 1 game behind, and divisionals are coming up. That could change everything here, especially with Aurora struggling in these last few weeks with their roster and everything. The good thing for them is they don't have to worry about Genesis as much, as Genesis is eliminated from playoffs, and so it's a 3-team division right now.
Yeah, it's definitely insane on how these last games go, because you know for a fact, like, yes, it's a two-edged sword. You know a team's going to win in your division, but you also know a team's going to lose. You have to hope for the best for, who's going to win, who's going to lose.
Yeah.
Two-edged sword. I mean, you love it, but you also hate it. So, am I now free to go on, Mr. Finn?
Well,
you good?
okay. Let's take a look at the survey and see what everybody thinks about these matches first.
All right. Okay. We'll do that.
For the first one, right now the server. Oh, somebody just.
It may or may not be me.
Oh, you're a little late to the pack. But the Bishops are. The server thinks that the Bishops will take the challenger match with a 31-22 vote. This. I don't like this one.
You changed your vote.
No, I don't know what you were talking about.
That's why it went down.
The server, it kind of has a landslide for the Titan, with Blizzard taking it 41-9. I don't know what you're talking about with me changing my vote. That never happened. And then for the novice matchup, it's probably, it is the closest one so far, with Whelps having 29 votes and Pawns having 23. These probably will change closer to the game, but right now we have Bishops winning theirs, Blizzard winning theirs.
You hate to say that. You hate so much to say that.
Alright, you can move on to your question now.
So a question. A question I have not told anybody yet. I came up with it myself, and I've thought about this myself. Not necessarily for this season, but for the future of Nemesis. Okay, you ready for this? It's a very interesting question. I would like to think of myself, and I think a couple people have actually talked about it.
Oh, it has to do with you, doesn't it?
No.
Oh, I thought it had to do with you being GM.
You ready?
Yeah.
Will we see a 6th league in Nemesis if we grow more? And if we would have one, where would it be?
I think it's definitely possible, because if we think about it, people are gonna start joining. And it's gonna be like more like GCs, Champ 3s, like all like in the middle of the pack. There's gonna be more people. So what I think would happen is there would eventually be a 6th league added, but what they wouldn't do is put it in the middle. They'd put it at the bottom and move everybody up a little bit. But what would you think that league would be called?
That would be interesting, depending on the
Because it all depends.
placement.
Yeah, it all depends on the placement.
My opinion, I think it is possible. Not right now, but if we definitely grow in numbers, I think it would be in between prospect and challenger. You would just tighten the leagues up. Because the majority of the player base that joins leagues, yes, there's a lot of low people, diamonds, whatever. But I think you get more of the champ 2s and champ 3s a lot.
Yeah, that's where a lot of people are like joining leagues. Is when they're C2 and up. Is when it's when those people start finding the leagues and start joining the leagues.
Yeah, I just thought about, because I've heard of this question a little bit, and I just thought I would have to mention it and get your opinion on it, because I definitely think management has talked about this before. And, there's nothing leaks or nothing for management. They're usually tight about it. But I definitely think it was talked about.
See, you said in between prospect and challenger. What would you, if you don't know what you would, if you don't have an idea of what it would be called, what would you want it to be called?
Oh God, I am terrible with names.
See, yeah, I'm trying to think of a name. I'm trying to think of a name right now, but
What would it, I think of prospect as I would say like novice is, I would say amateur, but I would put prospect maybe a little bit more of like the amateur, and maybe put like novice as like a rookie league, something like that. Challenger's more of like, hey, I can play the game of Rocket League.
I actually I was kind of zoned out, but I was listening to you at the same time. Would you put that new league as prospect, change prospect to novice, and then make rookie league novice instead? Is that what you're saying?
No, I just think of like the skill level, like, okay, I'm a rookie, like not necessarily new to the game. You are, but just skill level wise, like compared to everybody else, you are more or less like a rookie per se. Prospect, I think of that as like an amateur type of level, like you know about the game, you just may not be able to do it on the field. And challenger, I realistically think that's when it starts to get more competitive with skill level.
You don't think that we're competitive? You're in prospect yourself. Come on now.
Skill level wise, I mean, there's competitive to it, but then there's skill level to it, and then there's game sense. There's a lot of things, but people don't like when you get up to the higher leagues. Everybody's starting to have that. What you're at the lower leagues, like for novice, you may have mechanics, but you don't have rotations. You have rotations, but you don't have mechanics. It's hard to say, but
I understand.
I think that there could be a 6th league to finish off the question, and I personally think it would be between prospect and challenger. And you said it would be somewhere
at the
below novice, yeah. Like for the diamonds, you think like 800 to 1,000?
No, they would just bump everybody up.
Yeah.
Like they would just like bump all the MMR bounds up and stuff. If you had to predict, what season do you think that would be introduced?
Season 10.
That's what I was thinking as well. Just it's a nice number to introduce it. We would have 3 more seasons, and if they needed to, introduce it before if they ended up needing to. But I think season 10 would be a good start for that new league.
Yeah, and also going here just to branch off a little bit more about this question, about another org or two. I don't think that they would add another org. I think 16 is a sweet spot. It's not long for your schedule, but it's not short either. I mean, it's 18. It's pretty good to have in a league. So I think you would just add an extra team to every org.
Yeah, that. And the thing is, if you did change the number of orgs, if you bumped it up, they would have to figure out and change the playoff style, because right now it's built around having 16 teams per league.
But would you go up to 18 or 20? Because I don't think we would have enough to go to even 20.
You would probably have to.
I think 16's fine.
if you had 18, there would be no play-ins. I feel like, or the play-in would just be doubled.
Double elim.
And it would no, I wouldn't say double elim, but it would just be like two sides. So instead of both of it, right now they're just semifinals and then grand finals. Instead, it would be quarters, then semis, then final.
What if you did something of the top 4 seeds in an upper bracket, the wild cards in a lower bracket?
Introduce an RLCS type theme with upper bracket and lower bracket. That I was also gonna ask if you would like that idea.
Now we're talking about other questions in different formats. But to finish off, yes, I do think there will be a 6th league. Do I know when? Absolutely not. But the placement of it is also to be determined because that is not my job.
That's very true. It'll all come down to management and their decisions. So we'll see eventually.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're not gonna do a clip of the week this week because we don't have the Squirrel Meister here, and me and Finn were maybe a little biased on it this week and maybe arguing about it. But so in that matter, we're not gonna have a clip of the week this week. Once again, guys, thank you for actually listening to the podcast. We appreciate it. We're glad to have some fun with this, talk about some leagues, and love to talk about you guys because we all know everybody skips to the part of the video where we talk about you and just that's it.
Yeah.
So, Finn, do you have any final regards or thoughts or anything?
No, just have some good matches this week. Hopefully everything goes well for you. But other than that, not much.
All right. I would like to say thank you to Glaze for actually recording this. He's in the background. Glaze, I don't know if we can hear you or not, just a little voice in the sky or anything, but thank you for recording this for us and getting it out.
I don't think Glaze was too happy earlier when you were talking about the Hawk match and them losing, but he didn't say anything, so
it's all right. But thank you guys, and I don't know what episode podcast this is. We never know at this point. We kind of just ate. If it's wrong, I blame Finn, not me this week.
You were the one who said 8 last week, and it ended up being 7.
Hey, I'm just saying, don't blame me, blame Finn this week. Thank you guys, and hopefully we will see you guys next week. Good luck in the league matches this week, guys.